Hello, my name is Keith Haswell. I'm a professional astrologer with 38 years experience in the business, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to this video on spiritual inspiration. You know, we've all been on a journey through hundreds of lifetimes. It's absolutely staggering when you go from being an atheist into total comprehension and belief in the fact of reincarnation. It is an incredible journey in one lifetime, and that's what I've been through, because up until the age of 31, which was 38 years ago, I had no belief in astrology, no belief in reincarnation, no belief in God. I couldn't follow the teachings that were given by the religions of the world, which taught about a punishing God and an unforgiving God and going to hell for eternity and all of this sort of thing. I thought, that doesn't make sense, because if you've only got the one life and you only live for 6 months, where do you go? Do you go to heaven? If you go to heaven, it's not fair for somebody who's fought through heaps of battles within themselves and outside of themselves in order to be able to test their character and their principles and values to determine whether or not they get an armchair ride into heaven as well, or whether or not through a few errors in life that they're going to go to hell for eternity. So it didn't make sense to me, and I just followed the scientific line of thinking. And then at the age of 31, my wife dumped a book in my lap on astrology, and I read up on the sign Scorpio, my sign, and I thought, yeah, I can see some degree of accuracy in that and validity in that. And I thought, well, if there's any truth in this, it's worthy of investigation, because it changes the whole scheme of things. It means that the planets are not just blobs of matter, as science portrays, but they are living forces. They're like the hands of some cosmic clock, and that puts intelligence and organisation and planning behind the whole scheme of things. So I thought, yeah, I've got to research and investigate this and find out whether or not it is valid. So I taught myself how to do astrology and did my own chart and researched what the textbooks said about myself, and I could see a terrific amount of correlation there between the inner strengths and the weaknesses inside of myself. And then I looked into the progressions from the past, the timing of events from the past, major events, and I could see that I had the death of my father when that was supposed to happen, the death of a brother when that was supposed to happen. I had changes in residence, formation of relationships, got married, had a child. All these things happened, accidents, injuries, bouts in hospital, even where I had scars on the body. There were so many things there that I could correlate to the science of astrology. And so I thought, wow, am I only reading into this what I want to read into it, or is it valid in the lives of other people? So I did 100 horoscopes for people free of charge in my office, and everyone I told them about themselves, they said, yeah, that's a good degree of accuracy there. And so I had proven that it was not only valid in my own life, but valid in the lives of others. And so, to cut a long story short, that set me off on a journey which has taken the last 38 years. And in 1 year, in 1975, in 1 year I read 9,000 pages of the Alice Bailey books. The Alice Bailey books are written by Master KH and Master DK from the Himalayas, dictated telepathically to Alice Bailey, who was an English teacher. She had no idea of esoterics or astrology, no belief in all of these sort of things, but yet she undertook this work because they dictated one book to her, and she felt, yeah, I can intuitively perceive that there's validity in this and truth in this. And so she agreed to take dictation for the balance of the books. More than 15 books on esoteric psychology, esoteric healing, esoteric astrology, and initiation, human and solar, the rays and the initiations. Look, it's just such deep stuff. But when I started reading that, I just thought, wow, this is like as if I've found home here. And it was absolutely fantastic. So I just have been on a journey since then to unfold my consciousness further through other material. There's other beautiful material out there for humanity, which is written, again, the Seth material through Jane Roberts is the same principle, dictated telepathically or through transmediumship. Jane Roberts knew nothing about these things, and yet the books that Seth has dictated, he was out of the body and dictating through the body of Jane Roberts. And the amount of information that was put out through a number of books, absolutely fabulous books on the nature of personal reality and all things to do with consciousness and everything. So I was very, very grateful for that type of material to be available, and I can highly recommend that sort of material to be able to delve into. But what I want to do here is to share with you some spiritual inspiration so that you can have not necessarily the need to be able to go and read all of the Alice Bailey books. One of the books there in the Alice Bailey books is 1,500 pages. A treatise on cosmic fire. It'll be a textbook for the next 2,500 years. The books teach about the spiritual government of the world and the different departments of the spiritual government. Look, there's so much there to learn. There's things that you don't know about God and Goddess, the knowing of which will change everything. So I don't expect that you're going to be able to wade through all of these books and have the motivation to be able to read 9,000 pages of the Alice Bailey books and to read thousands of pages of the Seth material. I don't expect you to do that. What I want to answer here is a call from you perhaps to say, is there somebody out there who can give me a précis of their findings from their research and investigation in terms that I can understand and relate to? And so this is what I want to speak to you about on this video, so that you can replay this video over and over again and get some idea of where you're heading spiritually, and to get that motivation to be able to go on with handling the complexities of your own being. We're all very, very complex beings, and we've all got battles inside of ourselves. And the funny thing about it is that the more you take in terms of knowledge, and the more you expand your understanding, the greater the amount of energy that you have coursing through your vehicles, because your consciousness is expanded, and consequently the energies that are coming into your chakras, into your centers, and activating everything that's within you. So you find that there's aspects of your emotional nature that you haven't yet conquered that are coming up as major testing situations in life, like fear and anxiety and doubt and insecurity and guilt and shame and self-pity and martyrhood, and all of these different things that we all have fall prey to in our life. And we all have these particular weaknesses and addictions to drugs and alcohol and sex and overeating and overdoing it on the social side of life. And there's just so many tests that we all have to face in life. So you just sit back and relax now, and I'll cover what I want to say here in this video for you. Now, the first thing I want to talk about is dignity. Now, are you proud of what your life is all about? Are you proud? Do you walk in dignity, in a sense of freedom to be able to be who you really are? And are you proud of the lifestyle that you are living? Do you have a feeling of being in love with yourself and that you are proud of yourself and that you walk with your head high? Well, dignity is a freedom to become more of who you really are. You are a piece of God and Goddess, and your task in this life, as in previous lifetimes, is to unfold your consciousness and to gradually become more and more of who you really are, to expand your sense of love with yourself and your sense of a right to be alive, your dignity, your freedom, to explore. The next thing I want to talk with you about is vision. What sort of vision do you have? Do you see yourself only as a person who's in incarnation and you're only seeing a vision of the future as far as your work and your family and the circle of friends and everything are concerned? Or do you have a vision that looks deeper and deeper into the complexity of yourself, and the vision that says, yes, there's more to life than what meets the eye? A vision that says, yes, I can become more of the giant that I truly am, more and more of my higher self. Do you have a vision of eternal life, where you're going with your eternal life? Do you have a vision of falling more and more in love with your higher self? Do you have a vision of falling more and more in love with God, Goddess, all that is? Look, we're all on a wonderful journey, and it's a question of how far can you see? Can you see beyond your complexity? Can you see beyond your limitations? Can you see beyond your addictions to your own particular quirks of your personality? So there's just so much there that I want to share with you through my videos to help you to expand your vision to a larger horizon. The next thing I want to talk with you about is vitality. Are you living the life that you really should be living, with good food and right exercise? Are you looking after yourself by having proper sleep patterns and getting plenty of sleep and rest? Do you look after the body, or are you grossly overweight? Do you exercise? How is the amount of vitality and aliveness that you've got going through your body? Are you battling with addictions to food and alcohol and cigarettes and drugs and so forth that you know are not good for you? So this is where we're all getting our vitality from, is from right food, right exercise, right living, and realizing that the body is the temple of the soul. And this body of yours should be filled with vitality and a sense of aliveness, so that you can reach and stretch and grow and research and investigate into the deeper side of life, to become more of the giant that you truly are, to unfold your goodness, truth and beauty, to unfold your powers, strengths and talents. Yes, there's plenty of vitality there that you can work on to develop and expand, to have more aliveness in your life. And the spiritual path, I suggest, is certainly the way to do this, to learn the art of meditation, the science of meditation, and to get yourself into a ritual and a routine of daily meditation. 15 minutes to start off with. I've got one of my videos is called The Science of Meditation, and I teach you the basics of meditation in the first 6 months or so of your unfoldment. And get yourself into a habit pattern of daily meditation. Start reflecting and thinking upon who you really are, and what is good for you and what is not good for you, what gives you greater vitality and strength. The next thing that I want to talk with you about is character. We all have certain principles and values that we live by. And these principles are things like courage. Courage is the willingness to act. Courage is the ability and the willingness to act. Courage is to be prepared to be wrong in the pursuit of what's right. Courage is the refusal to live a life that does not reflect your truth, your goodness, your beauty. We've all made mistakes in life. We can rise above these aspects of ourselves which is not really ourselves. Honesty. Are you only honest when it suits you? Integrity. Are you reliable? Responsibility. Do you jump ahead to take hold of responsibility when it's put in your lap? Do you rise to the occasion to be responsible? To respond to the occasion? To rise to take over and take charge of a certain situation or a certain crisis? Are you reliable and punctual, and do you have integrity as far as your career is concerned and your commitment to the job? Are you honest and loyal in relationships? Do you take responsibility when it comes to raising your children? All of these different aspects of our personality, which we know to be principles and values, they all add to our character. Character is the frequency by which we adhere to our principles. So if you have no character, it means that you are not living by your principles and ideals. We can all have lofty ideals and we can all have principles and values, but unless you are prepared to adhere to these principles and values, then you don't have character. So this is where we're all growing and reaching and stretching to become more of the giant that we truly are, to express those qualities of the soul: integrity, trust, courage, honesty, loyalty, devotion, idealism, giving, loving, caring, sharing, kindness, forgiveness, sympathy, tolerance, patience, trust, devotion, idealism, hope, joy, wonder, awe, magic, and miracles. Yes, there's just so much there that we can develop within ourselves in terms of our character, the frequency with which we adhere to our principles and values. The next thing that I want to talk with you about is your spirituality. Your spirituality, in a nutshell, is your living, loving, breathing relationship with God, Goddess, all that is. All of us have a piece of the divine inside of ourselves. That piece is our higher self. It expresses itself through our threefold personality of etheric stroke physical body, emotional body, and lower mental body. It expresses itself through our soul, which is a triplicity of spiritual will, intuition, and higher mind. It expresses itself through our threefold spirit, which is will, love, and intelligent activity. So our higher self is that piece of God and Goddess that we have inside of ourselves, and it has all of the properties, all of the qualities, and all of the powers of divinity within itself now. Its task is to unfold those powers through the personality. and into physical reality. And it does so through a journey which lasts billions of years. Do you realize that your higher self has lifted you through billions of years of the evolution of your consciousness? You started off as a consciousness unit, and you started off on the involutionary arc of energy down into matter as elemental essences being expressed through the lower mental plane, the emotional plane, and the etheric level. Your task through untold years was to become an electron, to become a physical entity. And that happened, and you then moved into the mineral kingdom. Now, you stayed in the mineral kingdom on other planetary expressions apart from the Earth, and you worked through billions of years. Your higher self has brought you a long way. And this might be going way over your head and be too much complexity for you to be able to handle, but I want to speak to you as I know it to be the truth in my own consciousness, so that you can have a vision to work towards. So your higher self has been with you for billions of years through the mineral kingdom, as you expressed yourself through mountains and rivers and all sorts of incredible things there in the mineral kingdom, until you eventually became part of the plant kingdom. And you then spent a long time there in the plant kingdom. Your higher self has been very, very patient in helping you develop your spirituality and to expand your consciousness. So yes, you spent a long time there in the plant kingdom, and it's a different type of consciousness than what we can possibly relate to now that we're at the human level. That state of consciousness in the plant kingdom means that you are working through a group soul, what you might say, and you are eventually expressing yourself through a whole grove of trees, or a whole bed of flowers, or a beautiful garden out there in the wild, or a beautiful forest, and eventually through a continental expression, and you've just grown and grown and grown in your consciousness in the plant kingdom, and you then moved into the animal kingdom. It was all a question of what your capabilities were in terms of consciousness. And your higher self has been with you on this journey all the way through to get you into the animal kingdom. And you started off in the low life of animal world, maybe as a jellyfish or something like that. And you worked your way through more complex and ever more complex forms of the animal kingdom through millions and millions and millions of years in other planetary systems. And you then got to the point where you became an animal man and moved into the human kingdom. And there hasn't been another person who's been individualized. There's been no new individualizations into the human kingdom for over 90,000 years. So we've all been around for a long, long time. Everybody in the human kingdom. And it's a question of how much that you relate to your spirituality and how much that you develop those principles and those values within yourself and express your character that gets you the courage to persevere and be determined to work and reach and stretch to become more of who you really are through the human kingdom. And so you've lived hundreds of lifetimes. Sometimes the life was only 2 years long, because that was something that you wanted to experience. Yes, your spirituality is your living, loving, breathing relationship with God and Goddess. But you couldn't have done it without your higher self. Your higher self is that connection between you and God and Goddess. And so it's a time to really knuckle down to the task at hand and to realise that you have a long, long history, and that you have been through all of these different kingdoms to get where you are today. And your higher self has seen you through hundreds of lifetimes. Lifetimes where you've been a terrible person. You've been a murderer, you've been a rapist, you've been raped, you've been murdered, you've been in battles right, left and centre throughout the centuries. Your higher self has overlooked all of your negativity with love, compassion and understanding, tolerance, forgiveness, kindness, sympathy. All of the qualities of the soul are there within that higher self. Don't you think it's time that you got closer to that higher self and started to know that higher self and started to become more of that higher self so that it can become more of God and Goddess? It's an eternal journey of ever becoming more of your higher self. And it doesn't just end at the human level, it goes on for eternity into higher echelons of consciousness beyond the human level altogether. When the scientists say that they're looking out there in the galaxies for some glimmer of life, thinking that the human kingdom is the highest kingdom and the highest form of conscious expression, self-conscious expression in the universe, they are lacking very much in humility. They don't realise that every single planet is a being of consciousness beyond the human level, who have been through the human level. Every star that you see in the sky has been through the human level. Yes, there's teeming life out there, teeming self-consciousness. Now we think to ourselves, oh, how can you possibly live on the sun? How can you possibly be there as a sun and live there? Your body would be shriveled up. But that's the body of the solar being, the solar deity, is the expression there of that massive state of energy, that massive state of consciousness, and all of those hundreds and millions of explosions like we know as atomic explosions are the expression of the joy and the wonder of life that they're experiencing. So yes, it's time for you to realise that you have eternal life, that you have a long, long road behind you and a long, long journey for eternity ahead of you. And your higher self has been with you on this journey all the way through. And isn't it time for you to start mastering the science of meditation, which gives you the opportunity to be able to link up with your higher self in the higher mental plane and on the soul levels, and to be able to find out what you can do to become more of your higher self so that it can become more of God and Goddess. It's a wonderful journey, and all of us have been given the gift of eternal life. And God is not a punishing God who's going to punish you for being naughty, or punish you for taking drugs, or punishing you for overeating, punish you for indulging in alcohol, punishing you for being dishonest in relationships, punishing you for being addicted to too much sexual expression, too much overindulgence in the entertainment field. God and Goddess have complete infinite compassion and love and understanding and tolerance and patience, and they love you and they know your name. Yes, you can have a relationship, a spirituality with God and Goddess that is living and loving and breathing relationship through your higher self, through mastering the science of meditation. It's time to jump off the path of ordinary evolution onto the path of hastened evolution called initiation. And I'm covering all of these things in my videos that I'm releasing for you. The next thing that I want to talk about is your ancestry. What period are you attracted towards? Are you attracted towards the Elizabethan period? Are you attracted towards the time of the Crusades? Are you attracted towards the Renaissance? Are you attracted towards the Dark Ages? Are you attracted towards the Roman era, the Roman Empire? Are you attracted towards the Middle East and the times of Christ, walking through the body of Jesus and serving humanity, and in that act becoming the head of the spiritual government, the Christ, the world spiritual teacher, and taking over from the Buddha, who had been the Christ for the previous era? Yes, there's just so much there to learn. And he was the first of our Earth's humanity to become a master, a perfected human being. And since then there's been thousands have become masters on all of the different lines of development. Politics and monetary policy, teaching, and business and commerce and industry, and entertainments and amusements, and the arts and science. Yes, you don't have to believe in God to be a master. You can be a master on the fifth line of development, the scientific line, and you can be atheistic in your thinking, and God's not going to slam you down, because that's the line that they're on. The scientists don't need to believe in God. They don't need, their task is to work with the material and the material side of life, and to be able to look into their microscopes and to focus upon the task at hand there with the physical reality. So that's why they don't want to know about the subjective side of things and things that they can't measure with their instruments. And there's the religious line, all the different lines of religion, and that line is on the way out. And that's what we're witnessing in the world at the moment, is the death throes of the religions of the world. All of the religions are in their death throes, and they're all going through a process of trying desperately to cling to the past, to cling to the fear, to cling to the domination, manipulation and control of people's minds, to keep those donations coming in, and to keep you coming to their churches and their mosques and so forth. So we're living in very exciting times. We're in a transition period into the New Age. The New Age, where we become co-creators with God and Goddess, co-creators with our higher self, co-creators with our soul and spirit. It's a wonderful time to be alive. We now have the intelligence as a human family to be able to relate to all of these things, like quantum physics and the holographic nature of reality. There's just so much there to learn that I want to share with you, to help you to unfold the goodness, truth and beauty of yourself. But what era are you attracted towards? Are you attracted towards the times of Moses, 4,000 odd years ago? Are you attracted towards the Lemurian period in our history, 90,000 years ago, the continent of Lemuria? Are you attracted towards Atlantis, the three expressions of the civilizations of Atlantis, where all of us had lifetimes, hundreds of lifetimes? And atomic and nuclear weapons were developed in those days, and they had to be sunk under, the continental expressions had to be sunk under by the spiritual government of the world 3 times because humanity was on the verge of annihilating themselves because they developed nuclear weapons. That's what the story of the Great Flood is all about. The Great Flood is when the last continent, the third continental expression of Atlantis, was sunk under. And humanity went off in 14 different directions throughout the world. So what period are you attracted to? What's your ancestry? And you can start researching and investigating these things and find out where you belong. The next thing I want to talk with you about is the reflection upon your strengths. We're all given the gift of introspection and reflection. We're all highly intelligent today compared with 2,000 years ago. We have such a massive, complex mind, and so many are expressing themselves through their higher mind and their intuition. We have the capacity to take complex subjects and to understand them. And this is what we're out to do, is to reflect upon our strengths and our powers and our talents. And this is through the power of introspection and reflection upon these strengths. So what are your strengths? What are your powers? What are your talents? How can you work to unfold your goodness, truth and beauty? How can you reflect and think and introspect and bring about change within yourself through the science of meditation, and to develop those strengths and powers and talents? Courage, strength, tenacity, purpose, regularity, honesty, integrity. Courage to live the life that does reflect your goodness, truth and beauty. Courage, the refusal to live a life that does not reflect your truth. So I call upon you to reflect upon your strengths, your powers and your talents. And the last thing that I want to talk about are your priorities. Are your priorities to just be focused upon your immediate family, your immediate financial responsibilities, your immediate relatives and neighbours, your immediate home environment, your immediate family and children and romantic life? Are your priorities to focus solely upon the job? Are your priorities your relationship with your partner or spouse? Are your priorities the expansion of your consciousness through adult education and through philosophy and spiritual learning? Are your priorities to focus upon career and business? Are your priorities your circle of friends and your group activities? Or are your priorities of a spiritual nature? Are your priorities to develop that relationship through mastering the science of meditation? Are your priorities to master the complexity of your own being, to develop your powers, your strengths and your talents within yourself, and to get on top of that complexity of yourself, to overcome those weaknesses and those addictions and that clinging to the past and those trying on those masks that no longer fit you? The masks of guilt and shame and fear and anxiety and doubt and self-pity and self-sabotage and all of these non-deservability and giving up to the negative aspect of yourself that we know as the negative ego. So your priorities eventually will be spiritual. How are they now in the echelon of your priorities? Where are they now? Spirituality will be eventually your only priority. But work now to make it a priority, and then a main priority and eventually the only priority in your life. I call upon you to reach and stretch, to link up with that higher self, to get stuck into my videos, to get stuck into my intensives. There's so much there to learn that I want to share with you before I leave this body for this particular incarnation. And I'm prepared to do your horoscope for you free of charge to help you to understand yourself and what sort of cycles that you've got during 2013 and beyond. I invite you to subscribe to my videos so that you can get every new one that comes out without me having to send you the link all the time, and so that you can learn more about what tests that you're facing in life. Have your individual horoscope done by me or a competent professional astrologer. I'm happy to work with you and to help you through my intensives. There's 2 books that I've written. What Really Matters, which is on the basics of everything in simple terminology and understanding, and that teaches you the basics of the science of meditation and the basics of reincarnation and our constitution and the centers that we have and so on and so forth in our etheric body. And my other book, Coming Home, An Eternal Journey, goes into things in a more complex way, looking at the quantum physics and the holographic nature of reality and the deeper aspects of things. And in that book and in that intensive 2 and 3, there's beautiful poems of mine, and there's also extracts out of the Alice Bailey books that jumped out at me, and I underlined them when I read them all originally in 1975. I did that for you and others like you, knowing that this is the meat of the sandwich that I want to share with other people. So the last 38 years has been purpose-directed, purpose-oriented to help you to become more of the giant that you truly are. So it's been nice to have this opportunity to talk with you, and I think that this has given you enough information here and knowledge to be able to reflect upon and to think upon and to gain, hopefully, spiritual inspiration from it. So I thank you for your attentiveness, and I look forward to working further with you should you decide to go further. Thank you.